Good afternoon. I would like to give a comprehensive idea, but in a nutshell, of what identity is. So when we speak about identity, there's a lot of content that we need to keep in mind. So people talk about increasing their self-esteem, but what is self-esteem and how does it work? So to start with this idea of identity, let's start with a less familiar concept called the self-concept. So if we talk about self-concept, let's write it down. So self-concept, there we go. The self-concept is almost like a perception that you have of yourself. Now the self-concept that we have is usually inflated or deflated. So it looks too well or too bad. So this is what we do a lot of times with people as well when we compare ourselves with them. We either compare ourselves with people that we see as better than us, and then we usually come off fairly badly. Or we compare ourselves with people that are worse than us. And if we do that, yes, we are winning, but there's this small, still voice that tells us, hey, you're cheating, it doesn't count. So we feel unsatisfied when comparing ourselves with other people. And we just want to get this question answered in the self-concept. And the question is, am I okay? And we compare ourselves to find out, am I okay or not? Once upon a time, I was sitting with a patient of mine, and this patient was looking across my shoulder, looking at the neighbor's bakkie. And my patient was saying, your neighbor, he must have everything together. Just look at his bakkie, man. He must be doing really well. And as I was looking at the neighbors, I was thinking, I'm not sure if they're actually doing well. There's a lot of debt going on. So my patient is using the symbol of the bakkie to compare if he's okay or not. And since he doesn't have a bakkie, he's having this problem where he's not feeling that great about himself because he's just not doing as well as his peers are. So ideally, we need to compare ourselves with a more realistic picture. To do that, we need to compare ourselves with ourselves. They always say, let's weigh up apples against apples. But the thing is, you are the only apple. So that means you have to compare yourself with yourself. And the way to do that is to ask yourself, but are you doing 1% better today than yesterday? So if you are able to do one more task, one more push-up today than you did yesterday, you're winning. We can talk more about this in a moment. Now, if you want to see where the self-concept is leading, it is leading us to the self-image. Now, the self-image, that is the picture you have of yourself. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a fairly nice person as you're walking down the street? This is the picture you have of yourself. And then this usually leads to the yes, you've guessed it, self-esteem. And the self-esteem, that's the weighing scale. Is there more good than bad that I am doing? Am I worth more or less? So if you want to increase your self-esteem, if you want to make it better, you need to make your self-image better, which means you will have to make your self-concept this more realistic by using the 1%. Now, how do you do the 1%? Okay, so if you want to make your self-concept more realistic, you'll have to ask a self-knowledge question. Now, self-knowledge questions is always questions. So self-knowledge question, that is something like, can you do 10 push-ups? Now, the self-knowledge, remember, this is the question part. This goes and fetches the answer from the self-efficacy answer at the self-efficacy is always yes or not yet. So the answer cannot be no. If it's no, there's a mindset problem, and then we'll have to have that discussion. So this answer, can you do 10 push-ups? Maybe the answer is yes already, or it's not yet. But if you practice enough, it will become a yes. So this answer gets diverted back to the self-knowledge, and it brings it back, and it makes the self-concept more realistic. Okay. So can you pass a test? Ooh, not yet. Or yes. And it brings it back down. Now, getting to this 1%, I would like you to see it this way. So let's just free up some space over here. Okay. Now, see your life almost like a pizza. Right? You have all of these slices. Right? Slices like, let's call it family, let's call it friends. What about romance? There we go. And money. Okay. And the other slices as well. Okay. Something like maybe church. Right? And now the question that we need to ask is this. If we look at all of these slices, how well are you doing in each one of these slices? So let's try it this way. Let's say church is 5 out of 10. Romance, oh, that's a 2. Family, that's at least a 9. Friends are okay, 6. Money, that's also a 2. Now, when we look at this pizza slices, if you want to say, okay, but let's make it 1% better, try to see which one will be the easiest to improve. Because usually they have a domino effect. That's usually something that happens. As an example, let's say money, you get a +1 there, you get a side hustle started. Okay. Now that +1 over here causes that now all of a sudden romance might be a +1 as well. You can take them on a date now more often, or to a better place. Oh, and your friends, all of a sudden you have extra friends as well. And you're able to give extra tithings at church as well. So now this +1, just in one slice, gets this domino effect going. So when we talk about your identity, yes, we have all of these self-concepts that we need to keep in mind if you want to increase your self-esteem. But it doesn't just stop there. If you put a picture against your mirror saying you are the best, that's fine. You can program yourself in that way, and it has merit. But if you ask this question, can I do better? The answer is yes. Maybe not yet, but yes. So this is a way to increase your self-acceptance by getting to know yourself, asking these self-knowledge questions, and then increasing in the self-concept. Because the self-concept is so oftentimes a perception you have of yourself. It's not in reality. It's not factual. So by asking, growing in this, it makes the self-concept more stable. And that's it. Thank you so much.